Hey everybody. Okay, so this is like the third time. Actually, I think this is third time that I've tried to do this tag. So I'm gonna try and rush through it. I'm sorry about the glare on my glasses. But yeah, we're gonna get this done. So this is the Book of Shadows tag, and that was started by Amethyst. And Amethyst, I love this tag. I just recently subscribed to you. I'm trying to jump back into the YouTube thing because I've gone so much. Yeah, so all my old subscribers know that I am obsessed with Books of Shadows. I love to see other people's books that they share, and I love to share my book, and I love my book. So without further ado, let's get this thing started. Okay, so the first question is, what do you call your book? I call my book a Book of Shadows, over the other common one, which is a grimoire or a Book of Light or a Book of Mirrors. I call mine a Book of Shadows because there's some information in my book that can be used um, for dark purposes, or there's some stuff in there, not a lot, but a lot of stuff that I pull from the shadows, and plus shadow work is a big deal. There's not a lot of information in my book about shadow work yet, but I do plan on writing a lot of stuff and doing some entries involving shadow work, and also because a book of shadows. It's the title. It's the name that's stuck with me throughout the years. So that's why it's a Book of Shadows. Next question is, when did you start your first Book of Shadows? My Book of Shadows was started in September of 2004. So, and it is, in a way, still the book that I started with is still, in a way, the book I still have. There are pages in my book now that were in my book before that I'm actually thinking about taking out because they were typed and printed, and when I aged them, they kind of smeared the ink a bit, so they're hard to read. So I'm thinking about taking those out and rewriting everything that's on them and putting them back in, but I haven't decided yet. We'll see. Um, do you have more than one Book of Shadows, or do you have several? I only have one big book, and I have these. I've got this, which when I'm away, if I have it with me, um, if I want to write a spell or a ritual, I'll write it in here first before I put it in my big book. And I also, in this, I keep a updated list of the entries that I want to work on. So I know like what entries, rather than looking through my book every single time and trying to remember, okay, what do I want to add? I have a list that I'll pick from. And the artwork that I do, because a lot of you know, if you've seen my flip throughs or listened to me, um, I want to start putting my own work into my book. So a lot of my artwork, like this here, is an entry I'm working on now. A lot of my artwork will start out in my sketchbooks and this is the one I carry with me now. So my art will start in there, and then it'll go to my big book. Do you keep a Book of Mirrors or Book of Reflections as well as a Book of Shadows? Or do you incorporate the two in one book? I do not keep a Book of Reflections or anything. I keep my reflections and all that in my Book of Shadows. There's not a lot in there right now. I'm more so trying to get the information in as I'm younger. And then later on in life, I plan on doing reflections or words of wisdom pages. There are some in there now. I'm not really worried about it because I'm afraid that as I get older, I'll just keep remaking and rewriting the words of wisdom pages. What is your favorite thing to do in your Book of Shadows? Drawing herbs, writing spells, dot 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 dot. I don't really have a favorite thing that I do in my book. I think my favorite part of making a page is doing the artwork, but I've enjoyed making the book as a whole, so. Do you do a blessing on your book when you first get it? Or did you do a blessing when you first got it? Or do you have a special ritual or cleansing before writing in your book? I didn't bless my book when I made it because I feel like making the book in and of itself is magic and is a blessing in a way. I do have a book blessing, and I actually plan on writing multiple other book blessings. And I have done like a blessing over the page that I put in the book. Cleansing before writing in my book, that's a big one. No, I don't, ever. And I'm completely against it. If someone else feels like that's their thing, that's fine. But because I want my book to hold the energy and the knowledge of my craft, I feel like cleansing it before, when I put in a new writing or a new entry in there, I feel like that's going to not really erase the energy that's already there, but I do feel like it could weather the energy that's already there, and I don't want that. I want it to build over time, not, be weathered, energy-wise, so that's just my feelings. Do you organize the pages in your book into sections? Yes, sort of. I do have sections for the pages in my book. Like, I've got like a section for tools and a section for spells and a section for rituals and a section for miscellaneous or lore, history, stuff like that. But I'm not very strict with my organization. Like, I don't keep everything in alphabetical order or anything like that. And because my book is postbound, I can switch it all around whenever I want it. What does your Book of Shadows mean to you? My Book of Shadows means pretty much everything to me. Like, if the house was to catch on fire, that would be one of the first items I grab. I've worked really hard on it, and it's really a part of me and a part of my craft. Do you ever let anyone see or read your Book of Shadows? Yes. As I've said, and as a lot of you know, I have flip-through videos of my book. So, despite the multiple spelling errors that I have in my book, which I really don't care, I'm horrible at spelling, I let whoever wants to see it see it. I mean, my family pretty much leaves it alone. My sister will look at it every now and then to like look at stuff about the zodiac symbols or whatever, but that's what the book is for. So so long as people ask, like, I don't let just anybody look through it and read it, but I don't really mind. How do you feel about symbolism when choosing your Book of Shadows? I read, and I think it was a Scott Cunningham book, that your book has to be, or it doesn't have to be, but traditionally a Book of Shadows was of a natural color, usually like brown or green or black. And the reason for that traditionally was because it was easier to hide them. They blended into nature and their surroundings a lot easier. So that's kind of why I chose the aesthetic that I chose. I have the triquetra. I'm pointing out my arm because I have the triquetra on my arm. I can't show you right now. But I have the triquetra on my book because it's my favorite symbol. But aside from that, there's no, I have 5 rivets or 5 ribs on the spine to represent the 5 elements, but I didn't really get too crazy into symbolism into the cover. So, where and how do you keep your book? Do you have a special place for it? Is it wrapped in special material? That's my book. Right there. Right there. So, and that's how I'm keeping it right now. A lot of you who have seen my flip-throughs, especially the latest ones, or have listened to them or what have you, or other videos of mine, I think I've mentioned it before that the girls are using it as a scratch pad. So I did keep it. I've got like little altar spaces in my trunk over here. I don't keep it there anymore. I keep it out of reach because I don't want them to completely destroy it. There's definitely like puncture marks in the like fake leather. So I'm trying to take care of it the best that I can. I don't keep it wrapped in anything because I'm proud of it. I don't want to make it hard to get to. I don't want the cats to get to it, but I don't want it to be hard to get to. You know, if I need it or if anybody else needs it. Ooh, you could see the incense smoke flowing through here. And I don't like, it's like a living being. I don't want to wrap it up and hide it, and, you know, I want it to breathe. And are you planning on handing down your book to future family members, or is it just for you? I plan on handing my book down. That's the whole purpose of my book, and that's why I keep, you know, I try and update it as much as I can and fix the spelling errors that I have in there, because I do plan on handing it down to my children. And that's another reason why, you know, I just let whoever see it or whatever, because I'm not going to let anything too awful private. Nothing's going to be in there that I'm not going to be okay with my children seeing in the future. So, yeah. What is your opinion on the bot versus personally handmade debate on Books of Shadows? I didn't think it was that big of a debate, but I don't really feel too strongly towards one or the other. I personally feel like a handmade book is easier to connect with. However, I also know that there are a lot of people out there that do not have the time or the ability to make a book as nice as they would want it. So I don't see any issue with buying a book. I think you can connect to a bought book the same way, you know, just as easily as you could connect to, or you could connect to it just as much as you could a homemade book. But I do think it's easier to connect with a homemade book because it's something you've made, and especially if you're proud of it, you're gonna cherish it just as easily, if that makes sense. What's your opinion on Books of Shadows following the popularized, can't read today, charmed aesthetic of looking aged with calligraphy, perfect writing inside? I'm going to learn how to speak English eventually. So, I'm sure a lot of you know that my book is a charmed aesthetic. It looks old. It is, you know, similar to the charmed cover. Um, I have a lot of, you know, charmed replica pages in there, and practical magic art pages in there, simply for aesthetics. I don't see a problem with it. I choose to do that. I think it would be just as effective spiritually if someone had a book that was just printed out, you know, in a 3-ring binder or whatever. I think a Book of Shadows should reflect you personally. So to me, this is like a Christian family having a big old fancy Bible. You know, it's no more effective than a little, you know, rinky dink Bible from the dollar store, you know. However, this is just it's aesthetically pleasing. It's an eye pleaser, you know. I don't think it's a big deal. And as for calligraphy, perfect writing, no. Like, my worst fear is that no one's going to be able to read my writing in that thing. Just saying. Do you own or want to own any replica books from Famous, which is popular TV and film? I don't really worry about it. Yeah, I'm not concerned with having any replica books. It'd be cool to have one, but I'm not going to go out and spend hundreds of dollars on one. If you watched a lot of witchy films and TV, what was your favorite fictional Book of Shadows? And she actually listed my two favorites, Charmed and Practical Magic. I just think Charmed is, you know, the outside of it is beautiful, and, you know, how they, you know, Practical Magic, I love the scrapbook style, and with both of those books, I think the whole passing it down is a romantic ideal, you know. Everybody would love that family book, you know. So, and that's my goal with this one. So, and that's that. That's the end of my Book of Shadows tag, and I tag all you guys to do it as well. If you guys would like to see my book, I have flip through videos on my channel, I'll swear. So I have quite a few, so be sure to catch the latest ones. And the older ones if you want to see how much it's grown. So yeah, I hope everybody has a great week, and blessed be.